Hi guys, I'm Mama Bear to Many. I am mom to 14 children, baby 15, snuggling right here. I'm just taking a chill minute. And I thought that I would chat with you guys. I actually have somebody recently who was, there we go, we got you all set. I have to lay throughout the day. I have to lay on my side for a little bit or else I struggle. I've mentioned it in other videos before, but if you wonder why I'm kind of just sitting crazily like this on the couch chatting with you guys, that's why, because that's the moment that I have to spend with y'all. So, somebody recently asked me, they were looking at starting, it's actually someone in my extended family asked about this, so I thought that I'd kind of make a video about it because I've actually got similar questions from other people from time to time. So I thought that I would just kind of bunch it all and chat it out and go from there. So who knows what I'm going to chat about. So we're going to talk about schooling, but I don't think that we're really talking about schooling. I think we're talking about just the philosophy of life, which sounds really in depth, right? Like the philosophy of life. Dun dun dun. Anyway. I think that we are in America, especially, I'm not sure about other countries because I've only been to Canada. So in America, and I have seen visually, if you look at other countries, they don't do things necessarily the same way that we do things. So it's very interesting to do in-depth studies on other places, which is super exciting to do. Recently, I was doing a study on Finland, actually, because they have some of the highest test scores in all the countries. They have some of the highest test scores, and I kind of wondered what they did differently. And I found it very interesting that most schools in Finland do not start formal education until 7 years old. And so before then, they usually do something like a forest school, which is in and of itself its own cool topic. But I think that the philosophy of unschooling is kind of just a different way at looking at things. So people usually come back like, how is a child going to learn reading? How is a child going to learn writing? How is a child going to, don't you need 50 hours of this and so many hours of this? How are they ever going to get into college and that type of stuff? But if we go back to when you're an infant, you learn to crawl, you learn to walk, you learn to interact with others. Nobody's telling you how to do those things, correct? They'll help you along, right? You hold the two little fingers of a baby and you let them walk along, and it's so exciting, and you encourage them and you say, good job, sweetie, you're doing it, or whatever you might say, as the baby learns to walk, right? So I think that unschooling is kind of that same type of philosophy. I noticed that a lot of people, especially lately, I guess I'm not on TikTok. There's been a lot of stuff, I guess, on TikTok going around as far as unschooling. And it's more like saying that the parents are unparenting. And I think that I've talked about this before, that it's not unparenting. It's just looking at things from a different perspective. I don't see if a child is interested, as they get older, is interested in, say, house building, if they want to become a carpenter or any type of construction type thing, it would probably make more sense for them to analyze things better in geometry than it would for them to be doing algebraic expressions, right? And I'm not saying don't learn that or whatever. I'm just saying if you can understand where your child's headed, then it's easier for you to make decisions on what's going to be the best type of schooling for them, and then they can be part of that as well. But let's talk about children in the younger years, because that's where it all starts. And the question that I had was, this person wants to start some sort of maybe daycare / school type program for children under 7 years old, and They wanted to do it on a homestead type environment and how to kind of do that. What does that look like? And what curriculum can they use? And so I think the best curriculum is none. And that's just so crazy in us not to think that, because we've been indoctrinated like to think that way. So when we go to school, what are the first things that you learn in school? It's not that you're learning something, you're learning to sit, you're learning to listen, you're learning to obey, you're learning to ask for permission to do this or ask for permission to do that. You are being told that you need to sit in your seat and listen to this, and then you need to do this work. It's not, there may be periods of time that can be free talking or whatever, but it's not even the teacher teaching. It's the teacher is told what they need to teach, and then they can teach that. And who controls that aspect is not the teacher. A lot of times it's not even the school department. Most of the time it's the government. And so the government runs and says, these are the things they need to learn at this age, and it is up to you as the principal to have your teachers teaching your children this stuff at this time. Kids are eating and ask me a question. Sweet Pea, she always needs to ask if she can, like if she's going to have more, what she can have more of, and how much like insulin and stuff I've given her for the meal. Depends on what she can have more of, if that makes sense. We try to, she like does her own plate, so she says how much she wants on her own plate. But then if she does want more, it is, can I do this or can I do this? I usually give her a choice. Well, you can do this and this, but you might not be able to do this. Without, maybe you need to wait a little bit and then see if you're still hungry, and then we could give you a little bit more insulin and a little bit, and then she could do that. Anyway, so it's just a different type of thinking. I think that children are born in them the ability and the want to learn. I think that they are incredibly smart. If you sit down and you like just watch a baby by themselves, or you watch two toddlers like pretending or learning about things, if you listen to some of the questions that my 3-year-old asks, it's like, wow, like sometimes it's just mind-blowing. Like, I never thought of that. Like, how does that work? How did they build that? How did they make, that type of stone? How did they do whatever? It's innately in us to ask questions, to want to know the hows, to want to know the whys sometimes, just to know, right? We want to obtain knowledge. And so if we continue nurturing those things, then we can continue getting knowledge. There's also something to say the way that our now you guys are kind of far down, sorry. The way that our systems work are not for us to be inquisitive. If a child was in a classroom and they're constantly raising their hand, but why does that happen? How does that happen? They're going to be shot down pretty quick. If you question anything in any type of thing that might be against what the philosophy that they're trying to teach you, it's not okay. It is not okay. Go ahead and try to question evolution in a public school. Have fun with that. I remember actually when I was in high school, I questioned evolution. I didn't even realize it at that point because I wasn't a Christian, and I had a question about whatever, and they sent me to the dean's office. I got in trouble. Anyway, for children under 7 years old, I think doing nothing is the best. I think also having your child out, there is so much. You can look up unschooling. not unschooling. You can look up forest school. Lots of other countries are doing forest schools. Even in the United States now, they're starting off with forest schools. I know years ago it was all about like Montessori schools and forest schools and Waldorf schools. Look into those things, because those are the foundations of childhood. It is good for a child to learn to be imaginative, but I think a lot of that is taken away from a child from a very early age because they are sat in front of a screen. And no, I'm not saying that all screens are wrong. I'm not like, whatever, like what you do is what you do, but your child's imagination is not going to go beyond that screen. Your child's not going to have a screen in front of them and be thinking how they can pretend to be, you know, the king of Landho. Who knows? They're not going to think about how they can do things differently. They're not going to think about those types of things if they're being given information. There's lots of information out there too, which is really kind of interesting as far as the amount of pixelation in children's cartoons and videos and that type of stuff to actually like do whatever in their brain. It's like how many like dots per minute in cartoons can determine how popular that cartoon is. And yeah, it's really weird. Anyway, that's something to think about and to consider. Children under 7 really need time without the technology, without the stuff, the movies, the stuff. I'm not saying that you can't ever watch it, but the majority of your day should not be spent in front of a screen. That is key, especially in the younger years. They should also be given open-ended toys. So toys that don't make noise. Or, well, musical instruments is different than having, say, like, you know, like a truck that's like, or whatever, like a loud truck or whatever. We've all had those toys. You know, the ones that really annoy parents? Yeah, those ones, you don't need them. You don't need something to like bling off and for lights to go on, because then the child learns to be entertained by that rather than learning how to create and how to imagine and how to entertain or how to pretend. So pretend play is really important. They will pretend how to be a mom. They will pretend how to do kitchen, like anything that they see. They'll also pretend, if you go on field trips and you give them experiences, they'll pretend to be those people. If you give them dress up clothes, or it doesn't even have to be dress up clothes. It could also be something like, all kids love to play with blankets. It could be a blanket that they tie around, you know, or tuck into their shirt or whatever, that they are pretending with. It could be, you know, a tent. They could make a tent with a blanket or a sheet or something like that. Those things that are open-ended play allow them to have more creative thinking. Also having downtime outside, learning to be creative outside, allowing them to use natural resources like sticks and rocks and all that type of stuff to create their own little world. Those are all positive things. Even though it doesn't seem like they're learning, they are learning abundantly from that. As they get a little bit older, allowing them to use tools appropriately, allowing them to help you make a meal with a knife. Even at 3 years old, my daughter today is 3. She was cutting off the ends of cucumbers. She did it for about maybe 5 minutes, maybe 3, something like that. And then she was done. That's okay. I'm not going to force her to do the 40 cucumbers, but she wanted to try it out. I showed her how to do it appropriately, and she did it. So she did that. And just no matter what you're doing, engaging them in the things that you're doing, trying to think of the things that, the parts that they could do. Could they butter bread? Could they help knead dough? could they, as far as animals go, get them right in there. Get them right in there. Who cares if they get dirty? Do not care if they get dirty. If you are doing a program for somebody else, let them know that you need rain gear on rainy days because you may go outside. Let them know that you need winter gear in winter because you may go outside. Let them know that the stuff that they are playing in, they're going to be active in, and it will get dirty. So, no fancy name type shoes and clothing and that type of stuff that you have to worry about as a provider getting dirty. You want these kids to be able to be engaged in the space that they are in. So, as far as animals go, getting in there with the chickens, if they want to name a chicken, let them name a chicken, but let them know that that chicken could potentially become dinner at some point. And that's okay. And that's where chicken comes from. And that's where protein comes from. And that's where these vitamins come from. Do that little cycle, right? Let them put a seed in the ground. Let them dig that earth. Let them figure out what that looks like. And it gives them such confidence and such pride in what they can do that it's just amazing. It's amazing what just being out in nature can do. Whether you have a homestead or whether you are out in the woods, it's good for them to be outside. So I think that it's good to be outside in the same space. I also think it's good to be outside in different spaces, going like by the ocean and not having things scheduled and just being like, okay, I'm going to sit here. You guys go at it. If they get muddy, if they get dirty, if they flip over rocks, if they find creepy crawlies, if they dig holes, if they figure out how to build sandcastles, if they make sandcastles and they get washed away, those are all learning opportunities. You know, at the seashore, we're down there, my husband's building castles with the kids and whatever, and he makes like a big moat around or whatever, and one day the tide was going out, so they had their moat and everything turned great and it was this great castle and whatever. Another day the tide was coming in and they realized the tide was creeping up and they kept saying, oh, it's coming closer, the water is coming closer. And so it was a whole 2 different days, 2 different learning experiences, both important. If you are going to have children out in the woods, give them tools out in the woods that they can use. Show them how to use a pair of like hand snips. Show them how to use, they make like these little, they look like pocket knives, but it has almost like saw-like on the bottom so you can cut. Show them how to use those things. Show them how to use prune cutters depending on age. Prune cutters, show them how to use things safely. Show them how to use a hatchet as they get older. Give them some like baling twine and scissors. Just let them create things. Let them create, and doing all those things is opening up so many different aspects of their brain to want to learn more. And as that happens, the more they learn, the more they want to learn. And this keeps happening year after year. So by the time they're 7 years old, and you've been reading good books to them, you've been reading them adventure stories, you've been reading the Bible, you've been reading historical type fiction, these kids, by the time they're 7 years old, are like, I want to read. Okay, let's read. Let's figure out how we can get you to read. They want to get their library books. They want to get a library book, and we'll sit there and you read it to me. You want help? I'll tell you the word. I'm not going to sit there and be like, sound it out. Go ahead, sound it out. I'll say, okay, do you know what this says? Do you know what this says? If they want me just to tell them the word, I'll tell them the word. Because I don't want them to get so frustrated that they give up in that passion for learning. And there might go some days that they want to do like reading stuff for all day long. And they just want to do that. And there's other days that they're like, no, I think I'll just play today. And that's okay. You know, on those days that they're trying to play, or you think they're just playing, a lot of times all of that sinking in that they already learned. Sometimes also children need to learn something and then express that out to teach or tell others in order for them to keep that ingrained in them. I'm not a fan of like rote, what's it called, rote, like just memorizing facts for memorizing them. I want you to learn for life. I want you to learn and understand that you're learning for a purpose. Okay, also, let's get back to the 7 and under type ages. I really think crafts are important as well. So you're out in the woods, you should have some sort of rhythm. If you had I have all different ages, so it's totally different, but if you were doing a program where you did the same thing, I probably would start the program with a good morning type thing with everyone, and then, everyone just kind of maybe doing like a little singing or something just to kind of get them like chatting amongst each other, especially if it's people that don't really know each other. If you're homeschooling, that's totally different. You can do whatever you want to do, eat breakfast together, listen to Bible, listen to the hymns, whatever you want to do in the morning, and then do about your own thing. But I would kind of like rhythm it if I was doing a program with other children, so that they had that introduction for themselves to see each other and just be one-on-one with them, like allow time for them to develop relationships with the children as children were getting brought to your home. I probably would have a time outside where we did things like chores, like feeding and watering animals, maybe outside, or maybe you do that on one day or one part of the day. Maybe there's a time where you all work together on making a meal together. Maybe there's a time that you do a handicraft. Maybe there's a time that you're outside, probably most of the time outside. I probably would spend most of the time outside. I might even cook outside, to be honest with you, just depending on the group of kids that I had and that type of stuff. Or maybe it's a program that you want to like have them pack lunches, and they would pack lunches and we would do that. And I think that's okay, for them to have packed lunches and stuff. I also want you to consider, if they're not your children, or even if they are your children and you don't have the most nutritious diet at this point, that if you are expecting really good behaviors, watch how much outside time they get, because they need to burn off that energy, and watch what they're eating. Because if they are eating not necessarily healthy foods, they are going to have a hard time controlling themselves when needing to be controlled. So you definitely wouldn't want to do, say, a lunchtime or a sugary snack and then expect a child was going to sit down and do a handicraft. Some craft ideas would be just watercolors. I am kind of a big advocate for trying the best that you can to get high quality things. I was very blessed a few years ago. A local artist donated some acrylics and some watercolors to our family, and those have lasted us a really long time. But I'll buy like watercolor paper and sketch paper, and instead of I do buy cheap paper if they want to work on something. Sometimes I will take and put on like a video that shows them how to do something, and other times I might just let them explore like mixing colors together. A lot of times with really young kids, I might just do some primary colors. Like one day I might do like red and yellow, so they can see like just how that blends together. Another day I might do like yellow and blue, so that they can see just how the colors blend together. And then I might do like all three on another day, so they can see how all the colors work and how special God made each of the colors to be able to work together, and how like you can actually see the rainbow in that whole spectrum of colors, which is really amazing. So I definitely would include watercolors. I would probably include maybe dyeing like fabric or something like that. Dyeing is always fun. I'm just trying to think of some things that we do. Finger knitting is usually something that we do at a younger age, and then we move on to real knitting. We do wool crafts. So in the beginning that might look like felt, and a lot of times with younger children I would just use cheap felt from Walmart. As they get older, I might use felt from actually wool felt from a better source or better company. You can even get that on Amazon. I might get some roving, which would be like colored wool stuff. We might do some carding wool. We might do some drop spinning. This is just like whatever age appropriate is that you are looking at. We might do some like felt paintings or felt needle felting. Okay, I'll help you in just a minute. You can't get another shot right at this minute, so we gotta wait like an hour. Crocheting, knitting, finger knitting, even just what are those called? I think everyone's seen them when they were younger, like pot holders, and you like loop it and then you weave. You can do a simple weave like that. They also make other weaving boards, or you can make other weaving boards just by making a square frame and putting some nails on either side, and then you can run up and down like this. You could use cotton yarn for that. That would be great. Anytime that you can, try to use like natural fibers and whatever, but if you can't, use acrylics. It's okay. It won't be the end of the world. I usually tend to use like the cheapest stuff for the youngest kids, and then as they get older and they get more skilled, and then I would increase like the quality of what they're actually getting. You could use, like, they have these circle looms, or you can make a circle loom and make hats off of that, or scarves. You could you could have a day where you just bring like glue outside and they could glue different things. You could get say a thing of cement, and they could make like pavers or cement some of their favorite like creations from outside and just put them on there, and they could maybe draw that. You could do a like mosaic type tile thing where they smash tiles and they're trying to draw a picture with that. That's something that I want to do this year. We haven't done it for a few years. Recently, a subscriber, they bought us a pottery wheel, like a kid's size pottery wheel that was off of our wish list. And so the kids have, I gotta buy more clay. I gotta buy more clay. That's on my list for next payday. The kids really enjoyed being able to mold with the clay itself. That was just a beautiful thing to be able to do. There are so many things out there. Oh, I didn't even get into other things. Let's see. There's basket weaving. There is, which can be simple or can be difficult. There is wood burning, which can, again, simple or difficult. And these things do not need to be like expensive things. You could have a wood burning kit and cut rounds on a tree and just let them wood burn on there one at a time. That would be probably more 7, 8, 9 ages rather than like below 7. There's carving and carving tools. We have not done so much of this. I want to get more into that this year. Honestly, some kids have done it. Actually, my oldest son, he was carving one time and he hit himself. He hit himself and he really cut himself. Since I have found they do make these gloves, and they are like cut-proof gloves. So, yeah, I have a couple pairs of those. I think if we're going to start doing that again, which I want to be doing, that we're going to use the cut-proof gloves, because that would just make more sense. There are a ton of activities that you can be doing, but I think a lot of times just sitting back and letting be is really cool. Or if it's like a rainy day, if it's not like freezing cold outside, let them go play in the mud puddles. let them, sometimes like they'll create, like say there was a mud puddle and they might like create trenches to make like canals, and they'll put boats in it and that type of stuff. That's all cool. And then another thing would be is if it was raining, giving them a tarp and string or something like that they could like hide under the tarp, you know, and just allow their creative side to come out, because creativity is going to allow your children to want to learn and to want to engage in many different things, and to know that they're able to learn whatever they want to learn if given the right tools, pretty much. So as you move on to grades, or on to, you know, 7+ or whatever, you'll feel a little more confident in what you're doing. You will, because it's just a different philosophy. I don't think that somebody has to tell somebody what they have to learn. I think that they need to be engulfed in learning together. So a lot of things like will be engulfed in learning together as a family. And that's always fun because we're all doing it together. And then questions come out after that because we've been engulfed in that arena. So yeah, I noticed that I'm almost at half an hour. I have been blabbing along. I talk a lot about curriculums and that type of stuff over in other videos as well, but this was more specifically towards if you were going to start your homeschool or you wanted to start a daycare, out of the ordinary type daycare center or something. These are just some ideas or tips or tricks for that, just to believe in the children and that the children can learn. And it doesn't have to be on a piece of paper that they learn to count to 10, because you can count acorns to 10 and they can learn it that way. You don't have to count the little circles or whatever on a page. That learning can happen all around. And I just hope that you all are blessed by this video. If you have any questions or would like to see like maybe some like hands-on things of what we do, then let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what ages you would like to see that happen in. If you were looking for like 0 to 7, like just let me know those things. I cannot make any promises because we got this baby thing taken priority right now, which I'm so blessed by, but I will try to do my best to answer questions and hopefully get out other videos if that's what you guys desire for this type of video. So I hope you all have a blessed and lovely day.